I'm Nandita Sugandhi. Hello, everyone present on the call. I have been a part of the Let's Walk Together community for a few weeks, or I would say rather a couple of months now. I'm bipolar type 2, have been associated with MHSF for a few months now again. Currently, I'm working as a productivity manager for Mondelez International. I have a master's in supply chain management, a master's of management. I am also studying project management currently, and my bachelor's is in civil engineering. So a variety of experiences what I have and what I keep looking forward to in my life. My intention of being part of this series is whatever experience I've had in my life, I want maximum people to be able to benefit from that. So happy to have these sessions as well as invite that you have in your mind, and we will try to address it to the best of our capabilities. Joyce, over to you.
Hi. So my name is Joyce. I must have spoken to most of y'all for Let's Work Together. I have received resumes, so I think this would be a great session for you all to fine tune your resumes and send me the updated one. So Nandita used to take her regular series. So this week I asked her to take something on resume creation. This is on basis of all the resumes that I have come forward to. So before applying for any companies, the first thing that they are going to look at is your resume. So it has to be you can say near perfect, and we hope this session would help everyone to have a basic idea of resume creation. We have created this session basis on looking at all the resumes that I have received. So we have received around almost 60 resumes, and looking at these resumes, was very important for us to have a basic idea of how resume is built and how we can customize a resume according to the jobs that we want. So now it's a different game altogether when it comes to job application. So we cannot have a single resume that we can pass on to all the companies. So there are a lot of things that we have to look forward to or change in our resumes before we submit applications with our resumes. So this session today is going to be more of basic ideas and things that needs to be kept in mind while creating a basic resume. We'll try to go in depth as much as possible, but then of course we'll have another Q&A session to clear out your doubts. And if we have time, we will definitely have another session on how to create resumes using AI. But again, even the resumes that are generated with AI, we have to keep in mind we have to at the end still edit it and customize it. So yeah, starting with today's first session, this on basic resume skills. So yeah, we can get started whenever we.
So just to set a bit of more of background, today's session, as you have mentioned, Joyce, is going to be more on what a resume is all about, how to build a basic resume, how to link what is on your resume to the job requirement, and we will cover those basic requirements. A follow-up session may be there in order for us to be able to in a more easier manner generate those resumes with AI, but a fine-tuning is always required. And my urge would to everyone would be that look at your own resume, basis the tips that you receive in the session today and the subsequent sessions. Try to fine-tune your resumes, and then do reach out to us in case if you feel like your resume has been done for a second set of refinement, or even if you feel like you need help somewhere, do feel free to reach out to us anytime in order to make those changes necessary to make your resume near perfect, so that from a pile of applications, your resume is the one that gets picked up. That's the intention. Okay, so over to you.
So let's get started with looking at a resume. Okay, I'll just quickly share my screen. So this is a sample template that we have created for this session. Okay, now let's look at this resume and have a basic idea on design. Okay. So as we know that when we start a resume, let's start with our name highlighted in bold, and then followed by information like the place where you're coming from, the PIN code, your Gmail ID so that the companies can contact you, and a number. So now we also take a precaution on giving your not your primary number that is associated with your bank accounts, because your resumes whenever you upload it in any job portals, it just goes from, you never know who it's gonna land up with. So as a safety measure, make sure that you have a secondary number that you're going to put in your resume if you're uploading your resume in any job portals like Indeed, Monster, etc. And now coming to the font and the design and everything, so make sure that you only have two fonts throughout font styles throughout the entire resume. It has to be either, you can, for safety, if you want to have a general idea, then you can use Arial or Times New Roman, and you can keep the normal font as size 12, and you can highlight your name as size 14 or size 18, just to give you an example. And you also don't have to add your entire, so you don't also have to add your entire address. You can just mention the place where you're from.
I would like to just add something. So the top section of resume is basically an introduction to who you are and what you want, right? So apart from your name, sometimes names are gender neutral. You can mention your gender, you can mention your age if that's what's relevant. A lot of time organizations have, a kind of selective preference for certain type of diversity profile, like they want to hire a diversity of female family. So do mention your gender if you feel that is relevant. If that is not relevant, you can leave out that information. And then next to it, where as Joyce has mentioned, that you can mention your address, you can mention your contact details. Basically, this is how the employer is going to approach you. So it's very important that it's highlighted somewhere where it is very visible, either on the top or on the bottom, but somewhere where it is very, very visible that this is how they approach you. And it need not be limited to your mail address or your say for example your number. It can have links, for example, link to your LinkedIn account. If you are active in social media, then it can have a link to your Instagram profile if you are an influencer. It can have a link to your Twitter or X profile. So depending on what kind of profession you are in, having those links to be able to see your work, to be able to see your profile is also very, very important. Put them on the very top, put them where it's visible and it's easily accessible. That's my view.
Yeah. So, and also make sure that don't add fancy colors. Even if you are using colors, make sure it's not like neon colors or something. It has to be a little bit sunny. And for in a safer, safe space, make sure that it's just black and white. That's completely fine. Okay, and you don't have to highlight anything to the background. Even this resume is also perfectly fine.
So basically, it's a resume. It has to be professional. If you're using colors, use easy accents, deep blues, formal colors. It's not a wedding invitation. Keep it as simple as possible. A perfect black and white resume paper looks just as fun, just as nice. And one more thing, if you're using black and white or grays, if you're putting in inserting tables and you're using grays, ensure that your black pops up on that gray. Your gray is not so dark that your black is not visible. So be mindful of that after you print. How is it going to be?
Moving on to the next part, which is basically your summary. So we will come to the summary at the end, because this is going to be the last thing that you're going to draft in your resume. So we will come to this section at the end. So let's go in the sequence of the order how we're going to build the resume. The next one is work experience. Navita, you want to take
Sure.
experience?
Sure. So a work experience, especially if you're a person who is a professional, a work experience gives a glimpse as to what you've done in your life so far. What kind of interests do you have? What kind of projects have you done? What kind of experience do you carry behind your back? And therefore, whether you're suited for the role which is being offered or not. Work experience for a professional is one of the second most important sections that they have apart from their introduction in their entire profile. Some tips for your work experience section: highlight your role, exactly what role did you do, highlight the organization where you work, and also mention from which period to which period have you worked with that. These three items non-negotiable. After which comes, there can be two divisions in the section as well. You can go just how it has been mentioned here if you want to keep it simple. 3 to 5, maximum 7 bullet points. Each bullet point one line long, but delivering one or not more than two messages that you achieved or you worked on so and so quickly. You delivered on these many numbers. You saved so much money for the organization, or you worked on a spend of X million dollars, whatever it is, right? So one line, one message, maximum 7 to 8, ideally 3 to 5, not more than that. And when you do that, you can even have two subsections in your work experience. One is on achievements or what has been your delivery, and the second is on responsibilities. So an achievement would be, if you're working in a manufacturing plant, an achievement would be to ensure that for 1 year your line efficiency was 80%. That is an achievement that you have done. But your KPI would be manufacturing, say 10,000 tons of product every month, and you have done it, and you had to do it consistently every month, or your capacity had to be increased. So those were your responsibilities. So differentiate very clearly between achievements and responsibilities. Put achievements first, responsibilities later. You can have them as subsections, but never more than one or two items. That's the thumb rule for that experience. If you have worked multiple roles in a single organization, do not try to club two roles in one work experience, because they are not one work experience. There are multiple work experiences. You can mention the company name. So it will be, for example, we have worked as assistant manager, then manager, then general manager. So you write it in reverse chronological order. General manager XYZ firm, your details. Then manager XYZ firm, your details. Then assistant manager XYZ firm, and your details. And it will really show the career progression that you have taken along along the timeline of your life. So do not try to club things. Do not make it too long, too verbose as well. You need not have paragraphs. It can be in present perfect tense. The grammar has to be very, very consistent. And one important thing is that mention everything, but ensure that your work experience section is not longer than, say, a page or a page and a half, including all work experiences combined. Because no one is going to read an entire document in your CV. They want to know the highlights of your highlights. If everything is a highlight, then it's highlights. Just be very mindful. I think that covers it.
So I've seen a lot of resumes where they have mentioned it in paragraphs. So make sure that you have in bullet points. And while you're writing, let's say a single sentence, make sure you start with something called as an action word. So I will be floating around a document which has a certain, list of action words. So something like developed, conducted, collaborated, or led. So you can start with these action words. And if you have trouble developing that entire line, so if you have numbers, then definitely you can add in numbers, as Nandita said. So if what you can do is it should answer the three questions: what, why, and how. So what you did, why you did it, and how did you do it in that line. So minimum is 3. Make sure that you have at least 3, and maximum don't stretch it beyond 7 or 8 months. Okay, so that's all the work experience. So sit down, write down what was your designation. Make sure the designation is as far as what your offer letter is, and where the organization you have worked, and the duration, as Nandita mentioned, and 3 points. So you can list down what you did it in simple words, and then you can frame a sentence around it. So think of 3 answering these 3
one
questions.
more thing which is very important, which you mentioned, Joyce, and one beautiful thing that you have developed is the list of action points.
Yeah.
Right. So the kind of words that you use to describe the work that you did is also very very important, and it changes a lot of impact that it has. For example, if I worked with a team of 50 people and I say that I worked with a team of 50 people or in a team of 50 people, it just shows that you worked in a team, right? But if you say collaborated with a team of 50, it suddenly shows that you have a collaborative spirit, you are a team player. You can have words like persuaded, negotiated. So those action words make a lot of difference, and thankfully there is an action verb repository for your ready reference, which we would be sharing with you. And in case if you ever feel that you are confused as to which would be a better suited word, or you can probably frame a sentence better, feel free to reach out to us. We'll help you frame it.
Yeah. So I have taken this set of action words because even Harvard has a guidelines on how to make a resume. So this page is, designed by Harvard. They are a list of things what to do in their resumes, and I have added this in the document, so you can refer to this. They have given it into different categories, so you can start. So that's a good way to start your lines and phrases in your work experience. Moving on to the next section, and that is the education. So, yeah, you want to take this?
Education? Yeah, sure. I think education is again the third most important section, and therefore it is put in that order. If you are a fresher, then it becomes the second most important section for you. Very, very important that the person who is trying to hire you knows what your qualifications are, and education is precisely what lists your formal qualification. Have these elements in your education section positively. Very clearly spell out the name of your degree. If the degree has a specialization, spell out the specialization as well. Like if you have a bachelor's in engineering, do tell which stream was that engineering is in, so that the person knows who or what they are hiring. Which school or which college did you do it from, which year did you graduate in. You need not mention the duration here. Now there are some people who might have not been able to finish the degree in standard time, or there are certain institutions which do not have standard timelines for a degree. For example, Ashoka University or PDPU, or those which give bachelors of arts in say there are certain courses where you can make your own basket of courses. They are a 4-year program instead of a bachelor's of art of a 3-year program. You don't want to mention that, so you just mention the year and the month in which you graduated in. And if you have graduated with honors, or if there was any specialization, if there is any major, then very important to mention those majors as well, because that shows your specialization. If you were good in academics, brownie points if you can mention your grades. For example, an 8.5 pointer out of 10. If you were not great in your academics, nothing wrong with skipping it out. It's your resume. You get to decide what goes in the resume, what does not go in the resume. So you feel free to skip it out. Also, there are sometimes people who have inconsistency in the performance in their education. So, say for example, they were probably not great in school, but they become better off in college and they perform really well. I'll give you an example. My sister is doing the same, and if I would suggest her to make her resume, I would say that, hey, take your college grades, put your college grades in your CV. Just skip it out. It's perfectly fine. But don't do otherwise. In reverse chronological order, if you omit information, it's fine. But don't include without college grades. In that case, omit everything. Okay. So depends on that. You will have to take a judgment call on this. But education section, very very important. Keep it systematic, and some hygiene factors, some items to be there. If you feel like there is too much information, if there are 3 to 4 line items, say for example you have education up till masters, put it in a tabular format if you have to. But then do remember, whenever you are submitting your resume, if you have put tables in your resume, never submit it in Word file. Always convert it to a PDF where it cannot be edited, and then submit it. Yeah, that's on education from my end.
Yeah, so very, very, very important. Please make sure that once you correct your resume and when you send it over to me, it's in a PDF format and there are no much images. Don't put the text inside any images because it's not readable. Which also brings me to the most important point that I wanted to highlight, and that is on ATS. So now we have something called as an ATS, which is application system, which huge companies hire. So they receive around 1000 to 2000 resumes every day for single job application, and this first goes to the ATS, and the ATS screens out according to the job description and according to the requirements, and then it goes to the HR who actually gets your resume. Now, one of the most important filtering system in this ATS is looking for keywords. So in education, if you just mention as BE, it's not, the ATS is not going to capture whether it's bachelor's of engineering. So make sure you spell out, even if you write BE, make sure you spell out it's bachelor of engineering or bachelor of arts. So the words are very important because this ATS system looks and looks for keywords. So it's not going to read your resume and it's not going to take your resume if even if there are words inside any images. So make sure you skip images altogether. Make sure it's worded. Make sure it's PDF. Make sure it can be screened by an AI. And which is also important that you can refer to this keywords section, which I had showed you previously. So it has a lot of keywords which you can use. So make sure that you know it clears ATS. This is the most important thing, because if the HR doesn't get your resume, no matter how good your profile is, it just doesn't make any difference. So one thing of clearing ATS is that you have to tailor your resume according to the job description. So whatever the job description is, you can look for the keywords and you can make your resume according to what the job description is mentioned. And the other thing is, yeah, don't stretch out, don't add the keywords which is not relevant, and don't exaggerate on your resume, because at the end when you go to the HR
So-
round, it's going to
There are some times when people say that if you don't know horse riding but you need a job, you say that I know horse riding and then just learn it later on. It doesn't work like that, guys. If you don't know something and you get into an interview basis saying that you know it, and the interviewer finds out, it's a very bad way to go about it. You might get blacklisted from the company forever. It might not be good for your profile and your standing as well. So do not sugarcoat your resume. Put uh, put the right experiences, but put it with the right keywords and make the right impact. And that would make your resume, because that is your USP, right? Everyone has their own unique selling potential, and that's what makes you stand out. Ensure that you position and market yourself correctly. Do not market what you don't have.
Yeah. So focus on keywords, don't exaggerate. Please don't use any short forms. Even if you are using any short words, make sure you elaborate it, and avoid using images, because ATS cannot read words out of images. So you can remove images, which also brings me to the question that I have seen a lot of profiles, a lot of CVs with images. So if you're adding, you can add images if you're in a senior position. If you're just someone who's starting out, you can remove the image. And even if you're adding an image in your resume, make sure it's not a selfie, or it should not look like a for the matrimony. Make sure you're professionally dressed, groomed. If not, skip the photo. That's completely all right.
Yeah. So by image we mean that don't add things like smart art, don't add things like images of text. You can add a photo of yourself, but it has to look really, really professional. And if you are starting at a really junior profile, or you're just starting off of your career, it's a bit rich to assume that your photo will make a difference. If you're going for a really senior position, then having a crisp photograph puts that much positive impact in the mind of the recruiter who's hiring you, because usually if you are going for a senior position, not only will it go through an ATS, but it will go through the eyes of an HR as well, because this position will then hold a lot of importance, and at that point in time, having that human connect makes a lot of difference. So at that point in time, you can have your photograph great, but have a really professional photograph, almost like what you have with your passports, no selfies.
Yeah. Make sure it's in a PDF format, readable format. Make sure you have separate headers for everything. Different, as Namita mentioned, if you're in a different roles in a single organization, make sure it's separated. There is a header to it and it's bolded, so it's easily readable. If you are unsure of what font to use, it's okay if you use Arial and Times New Roman with font sizes 12. So keep these things in mind while you are, drafting your educational experience. Now, these are the basics of making your work experience and education.
Just one interjection. So, in case if you have too much stuff to put in your CV and your CV is becoming really long, I would never suggest that your CV goes beyond 2 pages. It should be one leaf back, front and back. Okay, so you can go up to font size 9, not smaller than that, because 8 or below becomes really difficult to read. But try to constrict all your achievements within 2 pages or one leaf altogether, and not more than that.
Yeah, I have received resumes almost up to 7 pages, which is really not acceptable. You have to make sure minimum 1 page it should cover up. So put in content that it fills up the 1 page, and max to max, if you want to stretch it, it should not go beyond 2 page. Ideally, according to research, a 2 page resume actually looks good, but even if you don't have that much of content, 1 page is the best.
Perfectly fine.
Yeah. After work experience and education, we have the others section. So in others section, you can put a lot of things. So I have highlighted that in my brief, which I'll be sharing it with you all.
While doing that, Joyce, would you also want to cover in others what should not go? Because there are a lot of times people who will put what is their blood group, what is their religion that they follow. So there's a fine difference which is between a bio data which you give for marriage versus a curriculum vitae or a resume. Is a bit dated term. Nowadays you call and title it as resume only. You do not need to put the title resume on top of it. Your name is what the title is all about. The page is all about you. Skip the personal details if possible, or not if possible. You should ideally skip the personal details altogether. Put it as much as professional details as possible. The maximum personal detail that should go in a resume is your hobbies, skills, and interests, because they represent what kind of person you are. Are you an athletic person? Are you an adventurous person? Are you ready for challenges? So your skills and hobbies actually reflect the kind of person, and therefore you are fit for the role. And so that is fine to go. But otherwise, personal details, your mother's, father's details, blood group, no, not required. Yeah, Joyce.
Yeah. Exactly. So luckily in the resumes that I have received, so you can skip out something, but religion is really not needed. So you can remove religion, your marital status. So all of these things, hobbies and skills are completely okay. You can put languages known, and you can highlight the skills which are relevant to the job description, and some technical skills that you have learned, some certifications or anything. So that can come in the other section. So if you are an experienced person, other than your work experience, other than your education, the next in section, you can put this in the order of importance. So you can start with any certification if you're an experienced person. If you have done any academic certifications, you can put that under here. You can put any other certification which you feel is important to the job. You can put that in. Let's say you have a master's in Bharatanatyam, that is also an achievement which you can put in your resume to highlight it. If you have any skills or interest, then you can put that in. If you have published anything or you have a portfolio of work, you can put that in, but in a very concise manner. Make sure even with your publications portfolio, it should not go beyond 2 pages. And still, if you want to highlight something, then you can definitely put your internship, volunteering, awards and achievements, and references. But only if you feel that you need more content, then if you want, then you can add this. But if it fills up 2 pages, then it's not necessary to add this until unless it's really important.
One more thing I would like to add probably, internship experience and volunteering experience is really important when you're a fresher, because that shows that you had that drive to, kind of get into the business and get into your work before you finished your education. But if you're already a professional, unless your internship or volunteering experience fulfill one of the two criteria, either it was from a really, really prestigious organization and you got to learn a lot, something that you want to really highlight, then it should go in an experienced person's resume. Or if there is a career gap or a break in between and you want to fill in that career break, and therefore you want to show an internship or a volunteering experience, then please go for it. Otherwise, it's not as important. You can completely skip it because your work details actually fills up and move for it.
Yeah, exactly. So this is for someone who is experienced. You can add this into the others criteria. For someone who's starting out, someone who's a fresher, then of course you can add some of the extracurricular activities that you did in your college, some competitions that you have attended, and then you can references. So again, in references, Nandita, do you want to share about what kind of references that we can put in a resume?
Yeah, sure. Two points I want to touch here. First is your positions held, PORs, and then references. We'll start off with the references first. So when we talk about references, references does not mean that from where did you take your data for building the resume. References means that those people who you can who will refer you to the organization saying that, hey, this is a really nice person, I have seen them work and they are good enough and you should please take them. Those people should have some sort of eminence or at least some authority in the field that they are working in. So what kind of people they could be who have interacted with you in past? They could be your faculties if you're a fresher. If you have had work experience, they could be your ex-managers, ex-bosses, or someone really senior in the organization. It can be your mentor from a third organization as well, but they should come from a position of power or authority so that when someone takes your reference from that person, there is a trust in their testimonial that yes, you're a good employee. So that's on references piece. You should have 2 to 3 references, never more than 3. आपको बहुत लंबा लिस्ट बनाने की जरूरत नहीं है. 2 to 3 references is just ideal. Never give just one. And then second thing is on positions held. So position held becomes really important for those who are freshers. And by positions held, I say position of responsibility. For example, treasurer in department club or organization of department cultural festival, or maybe university cultural festival. So those kind of positions of responsibility show some sort of leadership skills and organizational skills. And so it makes sense for a fresher to put that. If you are experienced, if it is really prestigious, for example, if someone was in IIT Bombay and they were an organizing committee of Food Indigo, which is the largest cultural festival of Asia, then it makes sense that even if you are an experienced person, you put that in your CV. But otherwise, you can skip this part. If you are experienced already, positions held could be skipped. What kind of other positions held could be added in your CV if you are experienced? From other organizations. For example, you're working in one organization, but you're in advisory board or in the board of directors or advisory committee of some third organization, then you can totally add it because it shows that your consultation holds value. Or if you're a guest lecturer at a university, then even that holds value. So those kind of positions of organizations could be added. So you have to take a judgment call on what can and what cannot be added in your career. Yeah, I think I'm through with this.
So, which brings us to the last part, and that is creating a summary. So, let's go back to creating a summary. So, once you have written down the work experience, once you have education in place, once you have your certifications and everything, now you have a clear idea. Again, coming to just to give you an overview of how references should be put in. So of course, take permission of the person whose reference you're adding. That person should know that you're putting that person's name as reference. So what is the designation, their email ID and their phone number, so that they can get in touch with them.
And one more thing I would like to add, especially if you're a fresher, but even so, a letter of recommendation also sometimes really helps. So whoever you have put in references, if you can get a letter of recommendation from them and attach it along with your, sometimes organization will ask you to put an SOP. You know, why are you applying for this position? An SOP from your end with your resume and some recommendation if you can find. Get a letter from them, get it signed and stamped from them, and attach it with your resume. That will make a lot of impact. And then their contact details so that it can be cross verified. Yeah.
So yeah, coming back to summary, you want to take up summary?
Sure. So in my experience, there are two kinds of summaries usually which can go in a resume. The one that you see in front of you right now, I call it cover summary or resume summary. It's a profile summary, right? It is usually written always in third person. It's a paragraph. Try to make it like a tweet, not more than 80-100 words. Refer to yourself in third person. At least one psychological thing which I find very useful is write your name at least once in summary. For example, here it is Deepika. So you can mention it as Deepika is a highly motivated and a versatile psychology graduate, right? And then you describe about what Deepika is all about, so that you can have hooks, you can have punches. Start with your punchlines so that it makes an impact. And those punchline, your first line is what is the takeaway from your first and the last lines are actually the takeaways. So ensure that you position your summary that way. Do not make it very long, very verbose, what your interests are, what is your skills, how many people you have in your family. No, it's not like that. Make it something that you would put on LinkedIn in your description. You can write your achievements, you can write your certifications, you can write some extra activities you have done to be able to do projects. More importantly, highlight the skill set and the avenues of your interest. For example, here we have Deepika with psychology. She's a psychology graduate, but if she is interested in marketing, social media, then ensure that these keywords feature in her summary, and these keywords are the same keywords which your ATS tool will pick up. So take help of AI if you have to, and include those keywords in the summary in here. I think that's the recommendation from my end. There are other ways to write summary as well. You want to pick up another example?
Yeah. So we can show your examples.
Yeah. So I have both examples of my resume. There is one resume with a summary of this type of profile summary, and then there is another one which has a very quick bullet point type of summary. You can share the entire screen. You will probably just, if you share the entire screen, you will have to just switch between the tabs.
This is the entire screen, I guess.
Yes, yes. So there's just one thing that we wanted to share. Probably there is another section that you can add to your resume, which is called as either your skill set or your core competencies.
Is it visible, the skill section? So right now I have it with I have is technical skills, but you can definitely mention other skills. I have added the link to some of the skills that you can mention in your resume.